Alright, what's up guys? My name is Zach and today I am driving a 1991 Mitsubishi Eclipse GST. Up front is a 2.0 liter turbocharged inline 4 and down below is a 5-speed manual transmission. Now I'm super excited to be driving this here Eclipse because this is my first ever DSM. DSM stands for Diamond Star Motors. It was a collaboration between Chrysler with the Pentastar logo and Mitsubishi with their star logo as well. They came together in the late 80s to form Diamond Star Motors. That's where we got the Eclipse and the Eagle Talon and the Plymouth Laser. So a couple of cars came out of this interesting pairing, some good, some bad. So this is my first time driving a DSM and I'm excited to share that with you guys. But before we get on with the rest of the video, if you are interested in helping out the channel, there are some links in the description below for some products that go towards helping the channel. There is a suction cup license plate from Con Plates. There is a fixed OBD2 Bluetooth sensor to help diagnose your car issues, and there is Cash for Cars that helps you sell your vehicle quickly. Again, if you'd like to help out the channel, please click the links in the description below. Let's get on with the video. But let's get back to that 2.0 liter turbocharged inline 4 under the hood. Well, it is the 4G63, which was made famous by the Mitsubishi Evolution, the Evo. This is an Evo engine from the factory, and this is a factory turboed car. Now the turbo has been tweaked a little bit on this particular car, but other than that, the engine is all stock, everything else is all stock. Excitingly, I can actually give you proper horsepower numbers because as of the day before the recording of this video, we actually took it to a dyno and had it officially dynoed, and at the wheels, it made 217 horsepower, which is not too bad. Factory, it was rated at around 220 or something. So 217 at the wheels is nothing to thumb your nose at. Here's some dyno footage. All right, we'll do a second gear here. Lag, 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 there it is. And the coupler popped off. Something. Boost cut, maybe? That's the thing with these cars. They're not super reliable. And I think any DSM owner can tell you that they are well acquainted with jack stands, which is a shame because these cars are incredibly fun to drive, but sometimes they cut out and then they're not so fun. And then things start breaking and prices start, you know, existing. Second gear again. There we go. See, it's temperamental. Sometimes it'll work, sometimes it won't. Oh man, when it does work, it's great. Oh, it's so much fun. It's so much fun. Oh, it's so good. Like I said, paired to it is a 5-speed manual transmission, which was actually also recently swapped out for the same unit, but for a better one so it doesn't grind second. It's fine. I'm not really impressed with the shifter feel. It's a pretty numb shifter, which is a little bit sad coming from a Japanese car. This part of the car feels very American. It feels numb. It doesn't feel amazing when you shift it. It feels more like an Oldsmobile rather than a Honda, if that makes any sense. Clutch engagement is nice and light. It's easy. It's not hard to get used to in that respect. But again, the shifter actual feel, not my favorite. Last but not least, this here Eclipse is front wheel drive. But the reason I make such a stink about it is because there was an all-wheel drive version of this Eclipse. So if you wanted to seek out that rare car, you absolutely can, but this is just the front wheel drive version. So with that out of the way, let's talk about the interior. Well, in front of me, I have 5 gauges. On the left is my tachometer with boost down at the bottom. Then I have in the center my temperature, fuel, and oil pressure. And then on the right, I have my speedometer. What I find interesting is that they left the coolant temperature, fuel, and oil pressure in the exact middle. I always figure that whatever's in the middle, the auto manufacturer decided was the most important for the driver to look at. In most sports cars, you'll find a center-mounted tachometer because that's what they mostly look at. But here, it's almost foreshadowing its future. You have to keep an eye on your temperature, oil pressure, and fuel consumption. On the steering wheel, I don't get anything. This is pre-airbag 1991. However, I do have a little Mitsubishi logo down at the bottom, which is fine. To the left of me, I just have a vent and the hood pop. And on the door, I have my power mirrors, which is a nice feature, door latch, and power windows. Moving into the center, this is where things start to get a little weird in the interior. I have these climate control vents, but they're off at a weird angle. I also have my hazard switch, defroster, rear wiper, and climate controls all in this upper center stack. But like I said, it's all angled like it's starting to fall off the dashboard. Going further, there's a fake accordion style joint that connects the center stack to the gauge cluster. This is not a real accordion joint, it's just hard plastic. And even further, there's like a drop off behind the center stack moving on to the rest of the dashboard. Very, very interesting. I don't know quite why they did this. It's definitely a 90s quirk, but here it is. Then I do have an aftermarket radio because most 90s radios were absolute garbage of the time. And then coming down to the center, I have an ashtray and some coin holders. The actual shifter itself, I like the look of the shifter. It looks very 90s, and it looks like the joystick to a fighter jet. I really like that look and that appeal. However, like I said, I'm not a big fan of the actual shifting feel of the Eclipse. Moving down below that, we do have a sort of cup holder, I guess. So we'll do a big friggin' bottle test here in the Eclipse, and unfortunately, it fails. I mean, I didn't really expect it to pass. Most Japanese cars from this era don't, but you still have to try. Then I do get a giant center console, and then we're moving on to the seats. The seats are comfortable. They're kind of sporty, but not as sporty as I would really want in a vehicle like this. You know, this is a sports car, I would say. They're not amazing. However, as you'll notice now, it does have power seat belts, which is a 90s quirk for sure. Not sure whoever thought these were a good idea, but it does have power seat belts. But speaking of seats, we do have back seats, so let's go do a back seat review. All right, so I'm kind of in the back of the Eclipse. Headroom, not good. Legroom, not good. These back seats are pretty terrible. Not gonna lie, I don't really know what else to say. My head is hitting the ceiling. My legs don't even fit back here. These are terrible back seats. If you need a back seat, buy something else. Buy an Evo. I don't know why you wouldn't buy an Evo over this, but if you like the two-door look and you don't have anyone to bring along, then the Eclipse is fine, but I would not recommend being back here at all. Let's go take a quick look at the trunk, then we'll talk about the looks. All right, so coming around the back of the Eclipse, I already popped the trunk from inside, and there you go. It's missing some plastic parts. Caleb is sort of mid-restoration on this car. You can see very easily scratched, and what's interesting is that it actually looks very similar. It's probably the same plastic as they use in the Pajero Mini JDM car that I reviewed last fall. I'll show an image here. Not too much crazy room, however, the back seats do go down, and if I own this car, that's 100% what I would do. Wouldn't even bother even looking at those rear seats because they're so bad, but here we go. This is the trunk of the Eclipse. Nothing really too crazy. However, 90s hatchbacks, in terms of a sporty car with a large opening rear trunk, you just can't beat them. You really can't. Now we gotta talk about the looks, and I really like the look of first gen Eclipse. I think it looks unique and different, and it looks unlike anything else that you really see in the modern era for sure. After we get done with this walk around though, hope you're enjoying that, I do want to talk about the front end because there's some interesting bits going on up there. Well, first of all, we have the power bulge in the hood. The power bulge was designed to better fit the engine. What's under the power bulge? Nothing. It actually doesn't need that. It's just an aesthetic thing. But moving along the front of the car, we also have the pop-up headlights, which are fantastic, but they leave you this sort of flash to pass. So if you want to signal your brights to someone or something of the sort, you can do that while keeping the headlights down. So I think the front end is actually very, very interesting and peculiar to look at. I find myself looking at it more and more and more. First gear. That's the motor mount. Oh, doggy! Oh man, they are a blast. They are a real blast. However, this being front wheel drive, you're kind of holding on. It walks a little bit. It definitely has a mind of its own, for sure. But now let's get to my final thoughts here on the first gen Eclipse. Now, if you see these online, if you're looking for postings and whatnot, these are known as 1Gs, 1 gen, first gen Eclipse. This is what started the car that was then in Fast and Furious, both the green one and the purple convertible later. This was the Genesis. This was the first one of those. And this is the car that really made a name for not only Mitsubishi and Chrysler, but them together with Diamond Star Motors, which is interesting because Diamond Star Motors, or DSM, I always thought was just kind of like a thing that enthusiasts would talk about. But if you look under the hood at the firewall, there's actually a dedicated DSM plaque. So this is an official DSM. It wasn't just a slang term. And so in all reality, I really do love this car. It's very fun to drive, it's very engaging, and it has that 90s spirit. It's something so weird. It's the collaboration we didn't know that we wanted. Because Chrysler and Mitsubishi have always been two very interesting companies. Chrysler has ran out of money more times than I've reviewed cars, and Mitsubishi, besides their Eclipse and Evo line, haven't really made anything too interesting. A lot of SUVs nowadays. The Galant wasn't really anything crazy. I guess there was the 3000 GT VR4, again a Chrysler Mitsubishi crossover, but I wasn't terribly impressed with the 3000 GT when I drove it. I don't know, I just feel like Chrysler and Mitsubishi coming together is like two old folks getting married in the nursing home. They don't have much time left, but I guess at least they'll be together. And yet out of that strange relationship came this, something that's fun, something that's good. Temperamental, but good. And I think that even though it is temperamental, I think that could be a good thing. I think that's why people gravitate towards these cars so much, is because they have a human-like quality. They're imperfect. No one is perfect. And so there are a lot of cars that start up every morning that don't have random boost surges. And those cars are good and fun and fine, but they lack a sort of human quality. It's more of an appliance, where this is more of a relationship. I woke up this morning to drive Caleb's DSM, and I thought in my head, let's see how the Eclipse is feeling this morning. Maybe it needs a cup of coffee. Maybe it's not quite sure it wants to get out of bed. And on that first pull, that was very much the case. But once we had a little conversation, we realized each other's interests. I think the Eclipse got that wake-up call it needed. And for me, doing a pull in a first-gen Eclipse is better than any cup of coffee. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Huge thank you to Caleb for letting me take out his Eclipse. If you somehow don't know about his YouTube channel, Gingium, he's doing a full build on this car. By the time this review comes out, this car will probably not look the same. So if you want to follow his build, he picked up this car in Southern Illinois, brought it back down here to Georgia, got it painted by Matco. He did a whole series about all of that stuff, and he's doing some really fun stuff with it in the future. So if you want to check all that stuff out, please head over to Gingium's YouTube channel. It'll be linked down in the description below. But I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Don't forget to rate the video, comment on the video, and subscribe if you really liked it. Take care, guys.